Hello, everyone. My name is Jim Kern. I'm the 2021 Metropolitan St. Patrick's Day Parade in St. Louis chairman. We have an excellent program for you here today. Joining me is 40-year-plus veteran of the U.S. Attorney's Office here in St. Louis, with an equal tenure serving our great parade committee, serving as chairman himself back in 1993, Jim Crow. And Jim, I believe you're going to introduce our special guest.
Well, thank you, Jim. I'm very honored to introduce our special guest. It's former U.S. Ambassador to Ireland, Kevin O'Malley. Kevin is an attorney, long practicing attorney here in St. Louis, and he started his career, actually started as a seminarian, both parents immigrants from Ireland. Started as a seminarian in high school, went to St. Louis University, to college, St. Louis University Law School, and became a member of the Department of Justice, an attorney with the Department of Justice in one of the organized crime and racketeering sections for a number of years in the 70s. Became an assistant U.S. attorney, came back to St. Louis as an assistant U.S. attorney in the late 70s, early 80s. Went into private practice, had a very successful private practice of law for any number of years, doing a lot of medical malpractice insurance, malpractice work on the defense side. And as part of that, he authored a whole series of jury instruction books that are widely used throughout the legal profession throughout the country. So Kevin has had a tremendous career in the law, and then had a wonderful thing happen to him in 2014. President Barack Obama called him up and offered him the position of U.S. ambassador to Ireland, which is an incredible position. Kevin served there. He was confirmed by the Senate and was sworn in the fall of 2014 and served until January 2017 when there was a change of administrations. And Kevin has agreed to join us here and share some of his thoughts about his work as the ambassador to Ireland and about the relationship, the continuing relationship between Ireland and the United States and the incredible diaspora from Ireland that is in the United States. So I'd like to welcome into our conversation here tonight, Ambassador Kevin O'Malley.
Well, hello and happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Kevin, why don't you give Mr. Ambassador? Why don't you give us some of your general thoughts about your term as ambassador and the relationship as you understand it and grew to know it between the Irish people and the American people?
Sure. So I had been to Ireland several times as a tourist. But that did not prepare me for my role as ambassador. For all of you who have been to Ireland, you know it's just a wonderful place, beautiful people, warm, great hospitality, a fun place to be, historic, and it's a wonderful vacation spot. I didn't know until I prepared for the job the tremendous economic connection between the United States and Ireland. When my folks came over from Ireland, my grandparents came over in 1910. The commercial relationship between Ireland and the United States was the American immigrants would send over a few dollars back at Christmas time in a package. And that was pretty much the extent of it. Ireland was an agrarian, protectionist country, high tariffs, was not looking to expand at all. But in the 60s, all of that changed. And currently, there are 700 American corporations headquartered in Ireland, using Ireland as a jumping off place to the largest market in the world, to the European Union. And those companies have prospered for a number of reasons. And now we have a number of Irish corporations operating in the United States, also being very successful. And each year, this economic bridge between the United States and Ireland, it grows broader and more prosperous. And so, what started out as a shared DNA immigration issue has now become a real commercial success.
When Kevin, what are some of the St. Louis area businesses that have extensive ties in Ireland?
So there are several. The MasterCard has a very large presence in Ireland. Enterprise has a very, very large presence in Ireland. Pfizer has a presence in Ireland. Almost the entire top tier of our pharma industry, the top tier of our tech industry, a huge portion of our financial services industry are all headquartered have European headquarters in Ireland, which they use very effectively to expand into other European countries. Ireland is a great spot for us because one, right now it's the only English-speaking country in the European Union, and none of us speak anything other than English, so it works out a whole lot easier. Ireland has had since the 60s a very much pro-business government. They have a low corporate tax rate. Ireland has always Ireland adopted the euro. It's been in the Eurozone, so you only have to translate the money once rather than twice if you were going through the United Kingdom. And it has a very young and well-educated workforce. I think it's 55% of the 30-year-olds, the primary employment avenue in Ireland, are all college graduates. And their education system has been, one of the leaders in Europe for years. So all of those things make it easy for these American companies to do well in Ireland. And then you add on what I think is the true secret sauce, is that we simply get one another. The Irish understand us, we understand them, we like them, they like us. And there's just so much shared DNA that this whole economic layer that's been put on top of the cultural and historic connections between our two countries has really benefited so many people in so many different ways.
Well, I think we also have to mention, certainly for our parade committee, we have to mention Anheuser-Busch with an extensive involvement in Ireland, and have for a long time. For many years they sponsored the Irish Derby horse race, which is the biggest. It's the Kentucky Derby of Ireland, and really one of the largest in Europe. They have a great presence there. They try to sell Budweiser, not as much Bud Light, but Budweiser in Ireland.
Well, and that's the second most popular beer in Ireland. And there are a lot of places that sell only Budweiser, which is a surprising fact, but a true one.
Yeah. But in the course of your work as ambassador, when you first arrived in Ireland, why don't you share with people the reactions of the Irish to the fact that you were there, and that there had been a gap in the ambassador position over there?
Yeah, so there had been a series of months between my predecessor as a U.S. ambassador to Ireland was Dan Rooney, the owner and president of the Pittsburgh Steelers, recently deceased, I'm afraid. But there was a gap of long gap between him leaving and me arriving. And when I got to Ireland, much to my surprise, most of the people, including cab drivers, including people I met on the street or would meet at social functions, but not government officials, knew almost to the day how many days had passed since Ambassador Rooney left and I arrived. The American ambassador in Ireland is a big thing in Ireland. And I mean, that's got nothing to do with Kevin O'Malley. It has to do with the position and the relationship between the countries. For example, it's hard to find anybody in Ireland who does not have a close relative living in the United States. There was so much immigration earlier that it's just everybody has a relative who's been here, and if they're here, they by definition have been successful. So when I would give the average evening, I would be out giving a speech somewhere, and let's say there were 300 people in the audience. 30 of them would literally line up after the talk to tell me their American story. The relationship between Ireland and the U.S. is such that these folks, whom I'd never met before, wanted to tell me in a gratitudinal way, that that Seamus went over to St. Louis and worked at McGurk's for a summer, and all of a sudden then he stayed and he got married and they've got 3 kids and he's an electrician and doing very well, and thank you for that. I would spend my evenings listening to people telling me with big smiles about how grateful they were to our country for helping them out. And the Irish image of America, I will tell you, the very first speech I gave in Ireland, I was introduced by someone who had looked at my history and said, here the ambassador, his grandparents came over in 1910, and there were, they actually gave me the manifest from the ship, the original manifest of the ship.
Wow.
My grandparents was on, listing their names and the names of my oldest aunts and uncles who were born in Ireland, and it listed their possessions, which was translated to me to be $20. So my grandparents, my grandfather was not literate. They had 7 kids come to the U.S. with $20, and then they eventually had 8 more children once they got here, so a grand total of 15. And I think they got a few more than $20, but the introducer said, and so, Ambassador, your family, the O'Malley family, went from economic refugees to the personal representative of the president of the country that gave them refuge in only 2 generations.
Yeah.
What a wonderful country you come from. What a great country you come from. And that's, one, it's absolutely true. And 2, it tells you how the Irish think about our country.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story. It really is. It's an amazing fact. And all of us, many of us have warm stories about, the relatives coming over with nothing and just making their way very simply and working hard.
And in those days, we were open to immigrants, and we understood, although they all had their problems. There were the no Irish need apply and the no Catholics and all that sort of thing, just like a lot of immigrants now have. But we were open to that, and those people have done very well in this country and have made the United States a better place.
Just as a practical aspect of how important the ambassador to Ireland position is from the United States is the residence itself. Why don't you tell the people a little bit about what the accommodations are? So as
probably all of your guests know, Ireland was ruled by the British for about 600 years. Oppressed would be the word that the Irish would use rather than ruled, but and they would be accurate in that. So the British built a new residence for their overlord in Phoenix Park, which is the largest urban park in Europe, which sits in the middle of Dublin, Ireland. And they completed this structure in 1776. And when Ireland got its independence from Great Britain, the British left, and this residence, which is quite a mansion in a very beautiful place in a very beautiful setting, was given to the United States for use as the residence of the United States ambassador, and as sort of a token of how they felt about the United States and subsequently its ambassador. In this large park, this large place called Phoenix Park, there are only 2 residences, and one is the President of Ireland, and across the street is the U.S. ambassador from the United States. And that's where, if you land at the Dublin airport and you just say, "Take me to the American ambassador's residence," everybody knows where it's at because it's right next to their White House.
And during your tenure there, you ended up hosting, I believe, someone who has risen to an extremely prominent position in the United States.
So our new president it very much identifies with Ireland. He had never been to Ireland as a tourist before, and he called and asked if he could come and stay with us. He was going to take a working vacation. He brought his, and I said yes, by the way. I didn't think no was a really good answer. So he and his family moved into the ambassador's residence with us and spent a week. I hired a genealogist to find the Blewitts and the Finnegans, his Irish connection. They were all pre-famine, one on the East Coast in Carlingford in County Louth, and the other in Ballina in County Mayo on the West Coast. And the Bidens and the O'Malleys spent about a week going through seeing almost every nook and cranny of Ireland. And I will tell you that this St. Patrick's Day, the new occupant at the 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue will be celebrating with Irish soda bread and a lot of friends. There won't be the traditional Shamrock festivities this year because of COVID. But maybe I should add something about that. So the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, is the only world leader who has a guaranteed annual Oval Office meeting with the president. The Prime Minister of Great Britain, the President of China, no other world leader has this. And so around St. Patrick's Day, not generally on St. Patrick's Day, but around St. Patrick's Day, the Taoiseach, the Prime Minister of Ireland, and a whole group of Irish government and business officials come to Washington for about a week-long invasion. I think is a soft invasion is not an inappropriate term, where they deal with the members of Congress, where they deal with the White House. There's a substantive meeting with the president in the Oval Office. I had the opportunity to go to several of them, with briefing books and real issues discussed, from Irish immigration to taxation, climate, things that affect Ireland and the United States and our relationship with the world. And then there's some festivities that have been, it's just a tradition that's been a wonderful connection between Ireland and the United States, and only COVID this year is going to stop it, and I assume it'll be renewed again next year. And I know that the president is disappointed that they're not going to have it this year, but that's just the way it is.
So, Mr. Ambassador, I have a question for you, and this is a question I don't know if you could answer while you were ambassador, but perhaps you can answer it now. Is there a favorite place that you have in Ireland? One that you got to experience the country very intimately.
Sure.
Favorite place, and then a favorite experience.
So this is not a secret. I actually said this while I was there, and it's not undiplomatic. So my folks came from Westport in County Mayo, and which happens to be a beautiful, beautiful town in a very pretty area. And I spent a lot of time in Mayo generally, and in Westport in particular. I just felt a real connection with that place because that's where my aunts and my uncles, my oldest aunts and uncles, and when my grandparents lived. And I had a chance to go, before I was ambassador, I had a chance to go there with my dad and my brother. And he had never been to Westport before. So that's a special sort of a place. And they were especially good to me there. There's a beautiful statue in the middle of town, and they had refurbished it and were redecorating it. And they asked me if I would come and unveil it one day, and I did. And at the base of the statue, they put a big announcement in there that this was this very square that my grandparents walked on when they were living there. That the statue was unveiled by Ambassador Kevin O'Malley on such and such and such and such a day. So.
That's incredible.
The people of Westport knew how to get to my heart, and they did a very good job.
I bet. And I'm sure you had, myriad experiences, and they were all probably incredible in their own right. But is there a favorite experience that you had during your time there that was?
Yes. Yeah, I will tell you, and it's a frequently asked question. So, and the answer is always the same, and it's as accurate as could be. And if you ask my wife, she would tell you exactly the same thing. Every place that we went to, every place without exception, the welcome was absolutely incredible. The outpouring, again, had nothing to do with Kevin O'Malley. This had to do with how the Irish feel about the United States. The U.S. ambassador just happens to be the touchable, feelable, tangible thing that's in front of them. But every place we would go, the open arms. One day we were going to, I was giving a speech in Roscommon, small little town in the middle of, kind of like in St. Louis, in the middle of the country. And as the ambassador's limousine and the guards were coming in, the kids, they took the kids out of school and put them on the sidewalk waving American flags and had a band playing. I mean, you know, go top that one. And then, you know, coming home on the plane, we came home on Inauguration Day when President Trump was inaugurated. And so I was somewhere over the North Atlantic. The pilot, we were flying Aer Lingus, and he, with his Irish brogue, said that they had the honor of escorting Ambassador O'Malley and his wife Dina back to the United States after several years in Ireland, and he named a couple of things I had done, and everybody on the plane applauded and stood up, and it's just so typical of how the Irish feel about the United States. It's a very heartwarming experience. It's something we deserve because we've treated the Irish. I mean, the Irish have been treated very well here. We had obviously the original issues, but you know, Irish people have done well in the U.S. And and that's because the country welcomed them and understood what to do with immigrants, and the immigrants themselves were willing to work. You know, my grandfather and my own father, you know, worked. And the whole idea was to give the kids an opportunity, and I'm the beneficiary of that.
Well, that's excellent.
Kevin, Mr. Ambassador, you know, we have our parade in downtown St. Louis. This would be the 52nd St. Patrick's Day Parade, downtown parade, founded by Joe McGlynn, an attorney here in St. Louis. Joe's plugging away, has had a few injuries recently, but he's still with us and still the spirit of our committee. One of the prideful things we have about that organization and our event is that we bring a guest of honor from Ireland, usually a political figure, a government office holder. Sometimes we've had the president of University College Galway. We had Keith Finnegan from radio personality in Galway recently, and a number of them. I understand you've had a chance to talk to some of those people, and
sure.
Why don't you share some of their reactions about their experience with the parade here in St. Louis and with our organization? Sure,
but I should say first of all that Joe's work with the parade. I mean, all St. Louis lawyers know Joe McGlynn and love him and appreciate what he's done both as a lawyer and what he's done with the parade. The St. Louis parade that you guys have been doing for so long, and which he founded and has been the real spirit of all these years, so typifies the whole of community spirit that exists in Ireland, where government and civic leaders and religious leaders all get together and move in Ireland, moving the country forward. Here, the parade moving forward. I mean, it's really it's almost symbolic of what's happened between the parade here in St. Louis is almost symbolic of how the relationship has developed in Ireland and how the transatlantic relationships exist between the United States and Ireland. It's really, it's been fun to watch here in St. Louis, and Joe gets, I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for doing that. The people that have come here and you guys have really been able to get some interesting folks. Charlie Finnegan was here a couple of years ago. He was the what we would call the Secretary of State of Ireland. He's currently the Attorney General of Ireland, or he has the job that we would call Attorney General. He's from a town called Portlaoise not a little bit out of Dublin. These guys, Mary Mitchell O'Connor came a couple of years ago. These people don't know much about St. Louis before they come, but they know a lot about St. Louis when they leave. And the parade makes a huge impression on them. All you guys in the green coats and all of the big long, the size of the parade, which they're not used to in Ireland. St. Patrick's Day they do have parades now, but not on the scale that we do here, and certainly nothing like the St. Louis parade. So it's been a good thing to help people understand what St. Louis is, and one of the advantages there are lots of advantages of being the ambassador to Ireland, but another one is that we could go to the various art museums and take select works of art to take with us to Ireland and put on display in the ambassador's residence. And my wife and I went around to the art museum and to the St. Louis Art Museum and the Historical Society and a number of other places, and picked out only things that related to Missouri. Some issues, some paintings of Hannibal, many of the Mississippi and the Missouri rivers. So we had these all throughout the ambassador's residence, and when we would entertain, which was generally 2 or 3 times a week, we'd have sometimes 20, sometimes 350 people over. We could expound on Missouri and St. Louis and pictures of the arch and a bust of Mark Twain and try to continue on what Joe was doing to make St. Louis something that people in Ireland knew about.
Well, marvelous. Well, Mr. Ambassador, I want to thank you. Go ahead, Jim.
I think the ambassador has shared with us a lot from his experience in Ireland about the relationship between us and them, and I think our committee and all the people watching our virtual parade will enjoy it very, very much.
Yes, most definitely. And Jim, thanks for your probing questions. And Mr. Ambassador, I want to thank you for your time today. And
my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for doing all the work that you do year after year after year after year. Jim does the run, and all you guys that you put on this great parade for us every year, which is the end of winter, the beginning of spring, and a chance to celebrate those of us who are Irish and those of us who just want to celebrate. Everybody gets a chance. So we're in your debt. It makes St. Louis a better place to live.
Well, and beyond your generosity of time today, I want to thank you for your service to our country. Certainly a great representative of the U.S. and furthermore to our great city of St. Louis. And want to wish you a happy St. Patrick's Day and to your family as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.